Hello and welcome to episode 28 of Nintendo Therapy, a show about the latest Nintendo news and rumors, as well as a celebration of all of the things Nintendo. And with me this week is Sean.
And only me.
Yeah, just Sean Harrison is on a sabbatical.
He picked
really
the worst week,
Yeah,
but that's okay.
really. But we are going to talk our Nintendo. No, you know what? Even if it was just me, I would come here and talk to myself about Nintendo because I need that Nintendo therapy that much. And yeah, so what have you been up to in the world of Nintendo?
So I'm just about done with the Contra collection. I'm just curious. Have you ever had like an older game make you motion sick?
I have never gotten motion sick, period. I'm not a motion sick person. I can read in the car. I can I can do all those things that people say make them motion sick. Doesn't affect me at all.
Because I beat
I must have some strong inner ears.
you must, because I beat Contra 3 the Alien Wars, but the second top down level, the boss fight, you're in this desert arena that's full of like cyclones. So your character is constantly spinning, and then you're constantly trying to move around the boss, dodge their attacks, and shoot them. I thought I was gonna vomit. Like,
Well, you got to kill them faster, buddy.
couldn't believe how insane it was for a game that old. So I maybe if I played it on the TV and not, handheld, it would have been a little better. But oh wow, like that was rough.
Maybe. Who knows?
But yeah, I beat that. I beat Operation C, which is the Game Boy game, and I've noticed the trend with the Game Boy games for all the series. You gotta be so precise with the jumping. Like that's how I die in those the most.
Game Boy games?
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but
I think the controls were just bad back then.
it could be that too, but I just feel like in every single one, the Turtles ones, the Castlevanias, the ones I've played, if you're not jumping exactly the way you're supposed to, you're just done. But
Yeah, there's
yeah,
like a weird thing on Game Boy games where like when you jump, it doesn't have like you get like glued to the spot when you land too. It's not like there's no like forward momentum almost.
yeah. So if you miss it, you just plummet.
Yeah, exactly. You fall like a rock.
So I'm in the middle of the Genesis Contra, and then I don't know what I'm gonna play after that because the only other two games in the collection are the European versions of the Super Nintendo and Genesis games. And I
Sacre bleu.
that well, if it were in French, it would give me incentive to play them. But I think the only difference is your characters are robots instead of humans. Because I guess that was more acceptable than people killing aliens at the time. I don't know.
It still is.
Probably. But I mean, I've been having fun playing them. They've been a good, palate cleanser of Final Fantasy and preparing for whatever my next big RPG is. But I mean, honestly, if anyone listening has beaten a Contra game without save states or on the original hardware, kudos to you. I mean, I've beaten.
What about using the Contra code? Does that count?
That counts because it just gives you lives. I mean,
Yeah, I feel like they expected you to beat the first one with that code.
because I mean, you're still one hit and you're dead. And I mean, I've beaten Souls games and they're tough, but it's not. You literally have one hit point. Good luck.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's been fun to play through them. They hold up pretty well, minus the top down spinning. But yeah, I've been mostly playing that, and then I've spent a lot of time with the Spotlight game because it's probably one of my favorites.
I have been playing, well, I actually dove back into Shredder's Revenge because I got so turtle hyped with Mutant Mayhem coming out, which everyone should be seeing in theaters August 2nd. But yeah, so I started playing Shredder's Revenge a little bit. There was a few things I never unlocked in that. And,
Okay.
that's a really good game. Like it does. I'm bad at beat 'em ups, but it's still fun to play. I play it on the easiest setting like a chump, and I have all the entertainment I need. But a good portion of my video game playing this week, I'm still on Pikmin 4. In fact, just today, as of like an hour before we are recording right now, I finished the story mode.
Oh wow.
And I have to say, Pikmin 4 is like the Tears of the Kingdom of Pikmin games. It might be longer than the first Pikmin 1, 2, and 3 all put together.
Wow.
There's like so much in this game, dude. It's like, and I know there was 10 years of like wait in between 3 and 4, so rightfully so, but it's it's crazy. Like I'm still not done yet. They have like about halfway in, you get it's kind of like a Mario game where like halfway in you get a part where the credits roll, but you're
Yep.
not done with anything yet. You've met like the first objective, but there's still so much left to do. And then like the story's not even over at that point. Today I made it like I beat like there's like a final boss and the story is over. But there is still like all of the treasure to collect, and they make it so there's one piece of treasure that I have left to collect that you can't get unless you do a bunch of other optional stuff. So basically in order to lift this thing you need 100 purple Pikmin, and
Ah.
you can't get the purple Pikmin onion without doing this. There's basically two different side quests you have to finish before you can get that in order to get 100 purple Pikmin. And there's other ways to do it, but I want to do it the right way, because you could just like keep repeating certain areas of the game that give you purple Pikmin until you have them, but I want to do it the right way. So what you have to do is, there's Olimar from the first Pikmin game. You rescued him a little bit before the ending, and you basically get the first Pikmin game inside this game. Because he does this thing where he's like, let me tell you a story from my past, and then you play the mission, and you have 15 days, a 15-day time limit to get all of his spaceship parts, which is the story from the first game. It's just this happens to be in the Pikmin 4 like story. So it's those levels. But so yeah, this game contains at least Pikmin 1 within it.
Wow.
Um and after you finish that, there's like optional like these like little, I don't even know what to call them, like mini game side mission things that you have to do. And then once you do those two things, you get the purple onion thing that lets you make the purple Pikmin. And then you can finally get that last piece of treasure that requires 100 of them, which getting 100 of them once you have the onion takes no effort at all. So you just have to get the onion. But yeah, I love Pikmin 4. Pikmin might be my new like obsession franchise because I haven't really obsessed over it in the past. We've talked about it a lot on this show. Like I played the first one, skipped the second one, loved the third one. And now I'm all in. I don't see anything taking me away from it until Mario Wonder comes out.
I just think it's funny we're all like not on purpose, but finding things other than Tears of the Kingdom to play, even though we were so excited about that game.
I'm telling you, it didn't live up to the hype. Yeah, like people are gonna crucify me for saying it, but Tears of the Kingdom, it's good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not a good game. It is a great game. But because it reused the Breath of the Wild engine, it just didn't have that like feeling that you're playing something new, even though there's so much new in it subconsciously. At least this is for me. I can only speak for me. Subconsciously, I still feel like I'm playing Breath of the Wild, which I've played for like 300 hours. So I'm kind of done with that. And yeah, so I'm not like running to Tears of the Kingdom, but I will finish it eventually.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
my
I'll
background game.
I'll get back to it. I just thought it was funny that At least everyone I mean, Momo might be the exception. I don't know. But the three of us are just like, yeah, I mean, I've been dabbling, but I've been playing other stuff.
So, what else did I have in my notes here? Like, basically, another thing that happened this week, though, is I don't know how Harrison can stand Pokemon Twitter or X now.
I'm
Ugh.
convinced
Um,
Harrison really has some inside info from a lot of the stuff that got announced this week. So,
but stay on the Twitter thing with me for a second, though, is that all I saw this week on Pokemon Twitter, which I don't understand how he can stand it, is just after they obviously did the Pokemon Presents, which we'll talk about in a second. I just saw so much complaining, and it's the same thing every time Nintendo does anything, really. But I saw one post that was complaining about them not bringing. It literally had what they announced that they're bringing, and next to it was like a fan made Photoshop of them announcing, and it was like Pokemon Company hates money. Why couldn't they give us this type thing? And it's like they basically expected them to announce that Pokemon Red, Pokemon Blue, Pokemon Yellow, Pokemon Gold, Silver, Leaf Green, Fire Red were all going to be like added to the online service. And it's like, are you paying attention to how these things work? They would never add them all at once. Like, how could you have been expecting that? You know, they didn't add all the Zelda games at once. Those
right.
those are still trickling in. I guess the Oracle games are probably the last ones that would fit into the categories we have now because we don't have a GameCube channel. But it took until just like last week for all the Zelda games to be on there. You know what I mean? They're not just going to throw all of Pokemon up at once.
Well, I mean, so it was funny last week we were like, hey, what about, Pokemon Stadium 2? And this week it's like that's up and the
Well,
Pokemon
yeah, sure.
card game.
Step on the news segment. Why don't you?
Oh, I didn't know that was the news, but
Yeah, no, yeah, it's in. But yeah, we might as well talk about it here.
yeah,
Um,
that and the card game sounds really interesting to me. I'm guessing that's not something that was released over here.
no, it was.
It
It
was.
was just
I
like,
don't remember it.
well, because like I don't think you played Pokemon much back then. I was like the like Pokemon guy that you knew, and I only played the first one. And by the time that had come out, I was already over Pokemon. Like I think the furthest I got into the franchise was like Pokemon Snap. I definitely got that, and and I also didn't know that it was like a whole game. You know what I mean? Because they had like so many random things like on the Game Boy that would be like just like pinball and stuff like that. Like I honestly thought it was just like the card game on your Game Boy. I didn't know it was a whole like adventure where you walk around and like trade cards with people and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. But okay, so that did get released here. I mean, it looks interesting. I'll definitely give it a shot.
But back to Pokemon Twitter, which is what I wanted to talk
Yeah,
about.
yeah, that's fine.
So I saw another meme. I saw another meme of somebody complaining that this could have been an email, the Pokemon Direct, and like I swear, every time Nintendo does something, if they don't announce something like world changing, like people are disappointed. They announced plenty in this Pokemon. I keep calling it Pokemon Direct. Pokemon Presents. You know what? Let's just get right into that news story. So what they announced: Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet content. We've got the Hidden Treasure of Area Zero Part One, the Teal Mask. So the first adventure in the Hidden Treasure of Area Zero, new DLC for the blockbuster Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, will launch September 13th, 2023. In part one, the Teal Mask, players take a school trip to the land of Kitakami, where they join out an outdoor study program held jointly between their academy and another school. Players can look forward to meeting Pokemon not found in the Paldea region. So they're going to get some new Pokemon in that game. And more details about part two, the Indigo Disc, will be revealed at a later date. Another thing they announced in the event is Get Mew and Mewtwo. in an in-game event, like two of the most popular Pokemon. So people have complaining about these announcements. Like they gave you the two most popular Pokemon, arguably. Um, so a special in-game event, Mew and Mewtwo, take place in Scarlet and Violet. Um, it says beginning today, as of recording, through September 18th at 4 in the afternoon. That's a weird time. It must have to do with some other time zone.
Hmm.
BST. Which time zone is that? Something standard time. Um, Players can add Mew to their team by entering the password "Get Your Mew" in the mystery gift menu. In addition, a special Terror Raid battle event will take place between September 1st and September 18th. And in this event, players can challenge and catch Mewtwo with the mightiest mark. I'm not sure what that is. So yeah, so they also announced they're giving you like the two most popular Pokemon. People still complaining. Pokemon Paldean wins. The Pokemon company. You know why people are complaining? Because like a lot of these are tied to Scarlet and Violet, which people don't want to admit they're still playing because they love hating on it. Um, Pokemon Company International announced a new animated web series titled Pokemon Paldean Wins, which brings the Paldea region to life in a new way. This limited original series follows 3 academic students on their journey of growth and learning while attending school. So I guess that's a new kind of season of Pokemon based on Scarlet and Violet.
Okay.
And then new game experiences and entertainment. Detective Pikachu returns. Now, I'll admit this game doesn't look that good, but it's still in the presents. So we don't have to go into too much detail on this game that no one seems excited about. Pokemon Path to the Peak. So this says there is a short animated series titled Pokemon Path to the Peak on August 11th during the special World Championships taking place. So there's that. And then you've got new updates and experiences were also revealed for popular mobile games across the franchise: Pokemon Go, Pokemon Sleep, Pokemon Unite, Pokemon Masters EX, and Pokemon Cafe Remix. So plenty of that. Plus, as we already discussed, they're adding the trading card game and Pokemon Stadium 2 to Switch Online. What more did you want them to announce this week? It's not like we're at Christmas time. It's not like there's a new Pokemon game that's going to like shadow drop or something. So I really don't know what these fans wanted.
I don't know because that I'm not into Pokemon, but I mean, I would guess the mobile games are pretty popular, hence them adding more content to them. Like, I don't get it. Like,
Yeah, and I think people are literally just upset that they didn't. It's kind of like the people who hate every Nintendo Direct that doesn't announce Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD are coming, and specifically as like a combo pack, which isn't going to happen, guys. It's not going to happen. They're not going to put those two games together and sell that. You probably want it for $20 for $19.99 too. Like you have crazy expectations. Um, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen with these Pokemon games. They're going to come to Switch Online eventually. I guarantee it. And you know what's going to happen? They're going to upload Red and Blue, and then there's going to be like 4 other updates before they put up Yellow. And then
yep.
there's going to be like 4 other updates, and then they're going to put up Leaf Green and Fire Red. And then like 15 updates down the line, you'll get Gold and Silver, because I honestly feel like all the evidence is there that Switch Online is going to carry over into the next Nintendo system. So you've got years of this service left to, like, people are treating it like there's like an end date. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're acting like, oh, we got to get it all in there right away. And it's like, no, Nintendo wants you paying for this service for the next 5 to 10 years. So they're going to milk every drop they can. So that is the Pokemon news. Unfortunately, Harrison missed it because he knows way more about Pokemon than we do.
He does, and I tell you, he's getting inside something because they announced Red Dead Redemption coming to Switch,
Yep, that was the next news item I had. So
which
yeah,
everyone is
Harrison
also
called it
upset.
last week. That rumor had been around for a while though. When he brought it up, I had heard that I had seen it because they, like he said last week, there it leaked that they made the new logo. So, and the new logo I think specifically said Nintendo Switch or something like that. Whatever he said last week, that was the story. But
But everyone's mad about that too.
why are they mad about that?
Because it's $50 and it's not a full remaster and this and that. I'm like, I,
Then don't buy it.
that's what I figured the solution is, right? Don't buy it. I mean, I'm not gonna get it because I played it. Had I not played it, I'd get it. But $50 for the game and Undead Nightmare, that's pretty good. I don't think that's outrageous. That game was pretty lengthy. It took me about 45 hours to beat. And I think Undead Nightmare is like 20. So I don't know. I think it's worth it, but I'm not going to buy it. I still think it's great that other people will have the chance to play it because I know a lot of people have a Switch who haven't had a system since an NES or Super NES. So if they wanted to play Red Dead Redemption, now they can.
And you know what this says to me is because like this with the Metal Gear Solid trilogy coming and like a lot of like really cool games coming, like PlayStation 3 titles
Hmm.
coming to the Switch. To me, this says that the online, like the Switch library, the rumors of it carrying over to the next system, like they've got to be true because they're building this like massive library, to say like, hey, like I know that we have more games you want to play than you have time to play them. So the next system will carry that over and you can just keep your backlog going. You know what I mean? It's like it's almost a no-brainer at this point to do it that way because PlayStation basically does the same thing. I'm not sure about Xbox. I never really play, but I'm pretty sure they do it too. So it's time that all systems work that way.
Yeah.
It's time that every time a new system comes out, at least the online library can transfer over. I'm not saying
Yeah.
you always have to put a slot in the thing to play the physical copies of the older games because that could get tiring at a certain point. But yeah, at least transfer over your online library.
I don't
And
know. I
that is
guess we're just crazy for being happy with more games.
yep, yep, yep. And that is pretty much the news this week. It's like we said last week, summertime. Not a lot of news in summertime. So, anything else you wanted to talk about video game related?
I don't really have anything, honestly.
I had a random note that isn't news that something I wanted to talk to you about is I was going to talk to you about this at the beginning of the show, but I scrolled past it and forgot about it. So I just want to give a quick RIP to video game collecting because
Oh, it's done?
every time I see videos online now and I look at the prices of things, I'm like, oh my God. I started collecting video games in like 2004 because I had no money. I was working at Dunkin' Donuts. It was an affordable hobby. It was cheaper to buy the older games than to buy the newer games. So I was buying a ton of Super Nintendo and like NES games. And I remember I would get like a lot of NES games off of eBay. And like every single time that box of like 25 games would come with a copy of Super Mario Brothers 3, Metroid, Castlevania, ice hockey was in there for some reason every time. Friday the 13th was in there a lot. Like I had like multiple copies of all these games. And I would go and sell them and use that money to buy another lot of games. And like I wasn't selling them for much. I was selling them for like $5. You know what I mean? Because that's my point. Is like that's what the pricing was like back then. I remember like you could go to a yard sale and buy someone's entire PlayStation 2 collection for like $50. You know,
Oh, yeah.
And nowadays, like when I scroll through like reels on Instagram, like the algorithm, it's always showing me these people like flipping video games or like going to thrift stores and like finding like some valuable video game, which like I know none of these videos are real. And I'm just like tired of seeing it. I'm tired of the focus. Like I wish I could talk to my algorithm and be like, listen, I do like video games. You're right about that. I don't want to see how much money they're worth. That's not the part I care about. Show me the gameplay, show me a review, show me like hidden gems. I love when I learn about like a Super Nintendo game I've never heard of. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like show me that stuff. Show me people playing them and enjoying them. Don't show me people selling them and putting them on a shelf in a plastic case and they're never even going to play the thing. I get collecting, trust me. I've got a lot of comic books, but it's like I hate that it seems to be the focus on the internet now is like what game can you find? What's the rarest game in your collection? You know, you see that post all the time. It's like who cares? It's I have never seen someone post the rarest game in their collection and been like, "Wow, I'm proud of you." Like, you know what I mean? Like nobody cares but you. It's your collection. Sometimes I'll be like, "Oh, that's kind of interesting," but the majority of the time it's somebody posting something you've heard of a million times and you already know it's rare. You know, like, oh, here's another guy with Worms Armageddon on Nintendo 64 and he spent $400 for it. You know, like it's it's old. It's just old. I don't know. I feel like I could talk
Here's
forever.
stupid me over here just trying to play them.
Exactly. And that's why like I love my Raspberry Pi and stuff like that. Like I want to get one of those handheld um machines that plays ROMs or like I'm also looking into I know a lot of people like jailbreak the Nintendo Wii and they put like a ton of GameCube games on there cuz the Wii already has all the hardware to play GameCube games cuz it was reverse compatible.
Yeah.
Um, and you can play them with the original GameCube controller, which is the only thing I usually care about when playing that type of stuff. Is like I want to play on the original controller, and
Yeah.
if I can on the original hardware, that's nice too. But the controller is what matters the most. Plus, GameCube has that like controller they've never been able or willing, I guess, to emulate since then. You know, it's got those like those triggers that are like
Oh yeah.
the
They've
click
never
click.
done those again.
I think it's a cost effective thing, but like even the GameCube controller for Switch doesn't have those. And they had to come up with like new controls for Mario Sunshine when they put it in the collection because in the original, if you held the trigger down like half a button push, like half a click, it sprayed the water. Which was it? It sprayed while you walked, and if you held the trigger down all the way, he would stand in place and spray it, I think, was the control.
Yeah, it was
Something like that.
it was a pressure sensitive trigger. I don't know. I want to say it's sort of isn't that kind of what the PS5 controller does?
Yeah, it's really cool. I was playing. We shouldn't really talk. This is a Nintendo podcast, but yeah, it's I already said on here that I've been playing Ratchet and Clank on that, and I'm almost done with it. Except Pikmin 4 took me away from it. But so there's the Nintendo plug. But yeah, certain guns in the game, when you pull the trigger, it's got like a resistance to it. Like it's got like that technology where they can make it like harder to pull the trigger. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And that's really cool. I don't know
That's
what
the
else they
only
can do with it. but
modern system I can think of that has something similar. So
but I just I miss when you could just buy a ton of games for $20. Like you could just get like a shoebox full of Game Boy cartridges for $20. And now every time you see that, It's somebody being like, I just got this at a yard sale. Let's see. Oh, here's a rare game. Now let's put it online. Oh, it's sold for 10 times what I paid for the box. And I'm like, I don't care about that part. What I want to see is, oh, let's look what's in this shoebox. Oh, I've never played this game before. Let me put it in. Oh, this game is kind of cool. Or, oh, this game is hilariously bad. That's what I want to see, the gameplay, not the part where you sell the thing. I don't even know who
Oh,
I'm complaining to specifically. That this is Nintendo therapy. I'm complaining to the universe. If you
ye-
also are aggravated by the focus of video game collecting, leave a comment below on Spotify. So that's my anger for the week. Do you want to talk about the Spotlight game, or do you have anything else?
so I really really like the Spotlight game. Like I
Yeah.
had a
For
blast
those of you
playing
who didn't
through it again.
listen, if you didn't listen last week, we played we drew from the randomizer Sega Genesis game Castlevania Bloodlines. Came out in March of 1994 everywhere because Sega is good like that. They release at the same time. This game came out. I'm not as hot on it as you are because I love Castlevania 4. Maybe that's why we started a Nintendo podcast. I always have a little Nintendo bias. But
I would put 4 just under Bloodlines, but
to me, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing this came out 3 years after Castlevania 4.
yep.
And 4 just feels so much better to me. Like you can whip in all directions, which you can't do in this game. Um, I I'm not gonna be completely negative, but these are just like my first thoughts right away. You can't do that. Um, I like that you can select the characters. That gives like a replay to the game, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know why you wouldn't play with the guy with the whip on your first playthrough. It's kind of a no brainer. I feel like nobody picks the spear guy. Um,
Oh no, I he's he's the better of the two in my opinion, especially on your first playthrough because he's got the reach and everything. I mean, I get using I can't think of the character's name right now, but the guy with the whip because that's tradition. And I will agree. Simon Belmont and Super Castlevania, like the fact he can go in all directions is better. But like one of the things I prefer in Bloodlines is I think the character models of the two vampire hunters are better, but I don't like any of Simon's character models except maybe in 2.
it's weird because between this is like the age where they gave different versions of games to different systems. This is like Hyperstone Heist and Turtles in Time, or like you were talking about Contra earlier. There's Contra Core
Yeah.
and
Yep.
Super Contra, you know, and then there's Castlevania 4 and Castlevania Bloodlines. And I feel like what you just said of like the character models look better in this one. I feel like the environments look better in Castlevania 4. It's like they were always balancing the two versions of the game. Um, because the environments in this feel like there was a few minutes where I thought this was like a remake of the original Castlevania because like the layout of the first level, it's almost like the same thing.
Which is funny
Um,
because 4 is kind of a remake of the original Castlevania. So
yeah, 4 does the same thing too, but like I know 4 and I didn't know this game. So like going in, I was like, is this oh no, okay, it changes at a certain point. And that's not a knock on it. I'm just saying like it environment wise, it kind of looked like a polished NES game, whereas the Super Nintendo Castlevania 4 I felt like looked like a new game. But you're right, the character models for some reason look way better. And it's like I don't know if they had to choose one or the other. People always compare the sound cards of the two systems too, so I don't know if you have a preference on the music for one or the other, but
see that
music was fine.
I feel like every Castlevania's got great music, so to me,
Yeah,
there's not one that stands out above all the others. So Bloodlines has great music. I
that's a
like
good
that.
point because Mega Man gets all the credit for having great music, and
Yep.
Konami over here with Castlevania. Come on, put that on the lists.
But I like that this game isn't just Dracula's castle, like you go around Europe. So I,
Yep.
I like that aspect of it. It's different, and that they have that Baroness woman who's like the main bad guy, even though you do fight Dracula. So I like all of that, and I thought the boss fight. That's the thing Castlevania is good at too, is at least varying the boss fights, because all the fights in this game are completely unique in comparison to Castlevania 4 or any of the other ones. Even though you're right, the first level kind of almost is the first level of the other games. I feel like they all start the same, but instead of fighting, I can't remember what you fight in Castlevania 4 at the beginning, but you fight the big mutated dog in this. And I think this game, it's tough because it's just weird to me that the Sega versions are on there, but the others are not. And I know that the Castlevania collection's available, but I don't know. It just seems like at this point that's been out long enough you could put the other games on there.
Yeah,
So I
that's
don't.
funny because like there's a couple of games like this where it's technically available on Switch twice because if you buy the Castlevania collection, that's what you just said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got uh got pretty much all the original Castlevania games. It's got one, two, three, four, the two Game Boy games, Bloodlines, and that Kid Dracula spinoff. So you could buy it or you could play it on Switch Online. Like it's on there two different ways. Like a few different games are like that.
So I don't know if the visual effects are better in Bloodlines over 4. They might be on par. I There's no level that does the mode 7 thing.
Yeah,
I,
that's
I
like
don't
you're never
think
spinning around.
Genesis.
Well, the
I don't know
final
if.
tower,
Yeah,
there's like a
that
tower
spins.
where you're spinning. Yeah, but it spins vertically and not horizontally, or vice versa.
But I don't know if that was a capability of the Genesis. Because I
Did that
know,
make
like,
you motion sick?
no, that was fine because you're not spinning on top of also having to go around a boss. And no, it was just that, thank God Castlevania doesn't have any top down sections. Good God. But yeah,
That would be interesting. Like I'm thinking of like the NES Metal Gear game, like how that kind of had like a top down
oh
view, and
yeah,
like
yeah.
if you would like whip and go through the game like that,
I mean,
be
I guess it could
interesting.
work.
Yeah, it would be different.
But I definitely think the fact you can choose two different characters obviously gives you incentive to play it again, because you can do different stuff with them. I mean, the levels don't change, and it's not like there's different pathways or the story changes, but the way you navigate levels can be different. So I like that aspect of it.
Yeah, I miss the branching story paths that they set up in Castlevania 3 cuz that
Yeah,
didn't really carry forward into 4 or Bloodlines.
and Bloodlines would have made sense because of the multiple characters. I also
Yeah.
I don't know if it was something that ever was discussed, but the other thing that would have put this over the Super Nintendo one at the time is if it had co-op, since there's two characters. But I don't know if that just would have been too much to throw on the screen at the time, or.
Mhm.
But again, Castlevania, since we're talking about jumping, you have to be really specific in Castlevanias too, because you could step off the stairs by accident and then you die. So,
Oh, the first Castlevania game, I remember even when it was new. Like I remember even when I was like 5 years old in 1990 or whatever. Um I remember the stairs like you just said it they I could never get him to go up the stairs reliably in that game.
and they kept that consistent through that 8-bit, 16-bit era of Castlevania.
Yeah. It's a little bit easier on like emulated systems now because I think it's like a diagonal issue with the original Nintendo controller. Whereas like obviously if you're doing like a ROM on a more modern system, it can diagonal a lot easier.
So, did you actually complete the game?
No, I got like pretty much towards the end. and then I just watched a video on YouTube to see what was left. I got like 3/4 of the way through, like enough where I just only had to watch like a 10-minute video to see what I missed.
Okay. Because
Um,
I've played through it a few times at this point. It's funny. Castlevania is a series I didn't play till I was an adult, and I don't know if because I like horror movies so much, and then it's that and 2D platforming. It's just a great mix.
this
So
is the type of horror I can appreciate. Like I don't like horror movie type horror, but I like Halloween type horror. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes
you
sense.
like classic literature, gothic horror.
Yeah, and then I also like silly horror, like the Real Ghostbusters and Luigi's Mansion and stuff like that. Like silly,
Yeah, so
scary horror.
Castlevania has that gothic horror feel to it. I mean, it's the Dracula myth, and
It's
I
funny, the
think
Resident Evil games, I feel like they started being what I like and they like drifted into what I don't like cuz the modern Resident Evil games are like modern horror movies and like the original Resident Evil games were like this. So, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think the creature designs are really good in the game because I mean they're basically the same monsters each game, but they make them look different each game. So I like that they take the time to do that. And it the challenge is like in the middle. Like I don't feel like it's impossible to beat this game, but it's not the easiest thing either.
This is another example too of them doing things backwards where the Western version is more difficult than the Japanese version. Which what was the last game we talked about where that happened and we were like that's not how that's supposed to be. It came up with something.
Yeah, I can't think of what it
Oh,
was, but
Dynamite Heady. Another
oh, so
Sega
another
thing. So,
Sega game.
yeah, I wonder if that's a Sega policy.
I mean, I guess it would make sense since Sega of America and Sega of Japan were kind of always button heads on everything.
In the PAL region, here's a piece of trivia. The title was changed to Castlevania the New Generation because they wanted to keep blood out of the game's title. But that says citation needed.
See,
So
but
they
and
changed the title for some reason.
that's what I mean. So the European versions of Contra, they didn't want humans killing aliens, so they made them robots. Castlevania, they just didn't want blood in the title. Everything else was fine. You know, they didn't suddenly make them robot vampire hunters, but don't put blood in the title. That's so weird, like how things are perceived or changed everywhere.
And as far as accolades, I'm just looking at the Wikipedia right now, and it says Games Radar named Castlevania Bloodlines the 8th best Genesis game of all time out of a list of 25. Game Informer's Tim Turi praised the level. Okay, we don't need specifics. They got any more accolades? In 97, Castlevania Retrospective, GamePro said that while the graphics and sound were not as impressive as those of Super Castlevania, it was a strong game by Genesis standards. Okay, so that's not a
I
ranking.
feel like among the community, it's probably considered in the top 5 Castlevania games.
It looks like it looks like it has about a B for a ranking if you average all this together. The game rankings gave it an 84%, Famitsu 28 out of 40, Game Informer 8 out of 10, Hyper 79, Mega Machines 70 out of 100. They were the harshest critics. And then Sega Magazine, that must have been like the Nintendo Power for Sega, gave it an 86 out of 100. So yeah, it's about a B to a B plus on all the ranking scales.
So I'm curious where it falls on your list because I know it's not at number 2 like mine. I really, really like it.
I do all my rankings live on the show here. So let me take a look here. I usually do it while one of you is talking, but there's only two of us this week.
It literally took me this many episodes to realize I had access to the document so I could just put it on there. So.
Let me see. What do I like this better than? Demon's Crest. That's a good comparison point because that's the Ghouls and Ghosts game, right?
Mm-hmm.
The sequel. And that's kind of horror-y. Um, I can't rank this below NES baseball. Um, I don't want to rank it as high as like the Nintendo properties though. So I got like kind of I'm gonna put it. You know what? I'm gonna put it right above Demon's Crest, right below Kirby's Dream Land. It is my number 12 game now.
All right, that's respectable.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
still
I
in the good games section. The top right now, the first where I'd say the first um 20 games. We've done 30 games now, and I think the top 20 are the I will continue to play these games section.
I think as of right now, and I don't have the list in front of me, but it might be the best Sega game on the online service. I mean, at
Well,
least
we're
to
just
me.
gonna
So,
have to keep playing them to find out.
but it's definitely out of what we've played for Genesis for me the best one. So,
And you know, Sega does what Nintendo don't. So I'm not sure what that is in this case, but
I think
I
I
guess
just like that, like you said, I guess it was a Konami thing, really. Nah, I guess Capcom, because the Wily Wars was kind of different from the original three Mega Man games, but I like that it was just a different game on Genesis. Like it wasn't
and
just
it was funny. We mentioned that like sometimes they would do this where you'd get like like the Jurassic Park games, or another example of you get the
yeah,
Super Nintendo version and you get the Sega Genesis version. We didn't mention sometimes you'd also get a third version on Game Boy, and
yep.
then very rarely you'd get a fourth version on Game Gear. And they would be four completely different games with the
And
same title.
that's something I mean maybe it would just be a pain now, but I kind of miss consoles having different versions of the same game.
Can you imagine if in October Sony put out their big title Spider-Man game and then there was an Xbox Spider-Man game that was a different game but used the same assets? That's the keys. Most of these games like use the same character models and stuff. So like that would be crazy. Like you go and then you play the Xbox one and it's a completely different campaign.
Yeah. I don't
That'd
know
be
that. I mean,
crazy.
I guess that was the gist of the time, but no, I like that. You know, it even well, I mean, now you can play all of them because Sega gets along with Nintendo now. But it's nice to know that oh, hey, I have Bloodlines. Oh, cool, I have Castlevania 4. Oh, well, come on over and we'll and they're just completely different experiences. So I love that aspect of it.
So share with the listener where you're ranking it because I see it on your list, but they don't know.
That's number two.
That is high on the list.
It is in my top five. So I don't know what's
It's in your
gonna
top two.
I don't know what's gonna push it down, but no, I really really like it, and those are games I play multiple times a year now. So
All right, so let's reach on into this bag and find out what we're going to be playing next week on Nintendo Therapy. All right, so we are playing. I gotta figure out how to get this ad to stop playing right after. Um, we are playing Nintendo 64's Yoshi Story. So
okay,
I always love to give like like what I think of the pick right away. Um, I
I
wonder
don't
if
have a
that
lot
takes
of
away.
experience with it, so
I don't think it holds up. That's going to be because I've tried playing it. So, spoilers for my thoughts next week. But this is a game that I was all in on when it came out on Nintendo 64. And I can talk about it for a second. Who cares if we take content from next week? We'll repeat all this. You're going to forget what I said in 3 days anyway, listeners. Um, so, when this game came out, right? I remember there was a lot of controversy about it in the letters section of Nintendo Power magazine because people loved it because it was a first party Nintendo game, so it's got that polish. But there were
Yeah.
also people that were super mad about it because it's super easy. There's almost no difficulty, right? And the argument to that was Nintendo was like, well, it's for all ages because like a little kid can play it and have difficulty with the actual story,
Hmm.
but an adult it's too easy. But there's the challenge of, I think they're melons. There's a certain fruit that are hidden in all the levels, and they're basically like, if you want a challenge, you go find, and there's 30 of them, I think, in each level. So they're like, well, if you want a challenge, you find all 30 melons in each level. Like there's your challenge right there. um and yeah, so that was basically their justification to how easy it is. I just think the controls haven't aged well, but I'll give it another go. I remember when it first got added to the service, I was playing it, and I didn't play it for long.
I
So
don't think I've ever. Yeah, I don't think I've really ever played it. It doesn't have
I was one of
multiplayer,
those
right?
people. What's that?
There's no multiplayer, right?
No,
Okay.
it's a very basic game. That was another complaint about it. Was not only was it easy, but it's very short. Like you could probably finish this game in an hour if you're not trying to 100% it. Um, and yeah, I remember back in the day, I was one of the people who took the I fell for the press and I 100% completed it with all the melons. And I there's different color Yoshis. I don't remember how you unlock them, but that's another thing, is like you can unlock all the different color Yoshis. And there were rumors of certain color Yoshis that are not in the game. But this came out during that glorious time where the internet was helping people spread rumors, but nobody was
Hmm.
fact checking stuff. Um, so what happened was, like, there was in Nintendo Power, I think, their own magazine. Um, they printed an image from when the game was still in development, when they were like previewing the game.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what color Yoshi it was. I want to say it was a white Yoshi that didn't make it into the actual final version of the game. And because they printed that screen capture, there were a million rumors on how you unlock the white Yoshi. He was like the white Power Ranger of this game.
I miss
But
that too. Just that whole urban legends in video games.
yeah. So if you figure out how to unlock all the Yoshis, let us know in the comments below on Spotify. Anything else for this week, Sean?
No, I mean it's. I love the randomizer because it's like you go from Castlevania to now we're going to a Yoshi game, so it's going to be quite the change of pace.
It's a cool, it's like, this is the type of game you throw on if you're like, I've got 40 minutes to kill and I don't want to spend 40 minutes on the main game I'm playing right now because it's not enough time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
Like if I'm like, I can't finish a full day in Pikmin, so I'll play this instead. Anyway, as always, keep in mind, we are not Nintendo experts. We are just Nintendo fans. So if you'd like to send us any corrections on anything we said today, let us know about anything we might have forgot to talk about. Email us at nintendotherapypod@gmail.com. And we also have Twitter, Nintendo Therapy on Twitter, or it's X now. Don't use it as much. We have the Nintendo Therapy Reddit, and we have comments on Spotify. So leave us all that stuff. Let us know how you liked Yoshi's story, and we will be back next week to talk about it. See you then.